Hey everybody, welcome back to Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com and here on the YouTube channel, and welcome to part 4 of our Time Machine history, a look back at the Mixing Music Analog YouTube channel and the beginning stages of this studio. If you missed parts 1, 2, and 3, look at the links in the description box. They'll be there. I've been going back over the last 3 years worth of footage. It's been almost 3 solid years since we started building this studio here. And I'm pulling out all the highlights and things that I think will be helpful for people that have never been to the channel before or are relatively new, that haven't seen all the beginning stages of where we started and how we got here. And also for people that might have seen those videos but want kind of a recap, we've been doing a video every week now, kind of going through and cutting out the highlights. So this is part 4. So in part 4, you're going to really see 2 things. In the beginning of part 4, we're going to see the basic audio signal flow. We did like a signal flow video for how we had things hooked up, how the audio gets routed from the computer to the interfaces we were using at the time, to the console, to the patch bays, back into the DAW for the print tracks, so on and so forth. Now, we've expanded that, up to this point, but you'll see in this video here, the first section of it, on how the signal flow kind of started, and we kind of walk you through it. Part 2 of this video this week will be showing you some of the rack changes that we made. You know, you guys seem to love the studio rack updates, where I take you through and show you all the gear, and we do those about every few months. These 2 sections that you're going to see in this week's video are really the first 2 videos where we did a little bit of expansion, where we only started with the 2 racks on the bottom, and then we started to go up 1 level, and we started to bring in a couple of new pieces here, and all those pieces are still here today, but just kind of showing you the mindset of what we were thinking at the time and how we were, just thinking out loud on camera, moving things around and repositioning things and moving the patch bay and how we had things patched in. Again, a lot of things are very, very different today, and it's probably about time soon that I do a 2024 signal flow video and do the whole studio, because now it's pretty much locked in and there's only minor changes being made. But what's interesting about this little history series that I've been doing is going back and looking at where we all started, so you can see, if you've watched the most recent videos on the channel, where we are today. But where did it all begin? And that's what these series of videos are doing. So enjoy this part 4. Let me know in the comments below what you think. And if you want me to continue on, I could probably do 4 or 5 more of these videos. Let me know in the comments below and enjoy the video. Okay, so in this video, this is now what we're calling our phase 1 completion signal flow video. So basically what we're going to do now with the iPhone is we're going to walk you through, now that you've been following us over the last 6 or 7 videos, everything's working, everything's patched, everything's hooked up. At the end of the last video, you saw us testing everything. It's done. Now we're ready to get to work. But before we do that, we want to walk you through how did we do the hookup from a signal flow point of view. This will be a little bit of a longer video. What we will have coming in the near future is more of a Origin beginner's guide or Origin 101 series, where we'll have very short videos showing you all the different routing and hookup configurations. Whether we're actually using some of those configurations or not, we're going to show you what's possible in very short videos. So for someone who owns an Origin, thinking about buying an Origin, so on and so forth, you'll know exactly how you will hook up and route the audio for your particular use case. What we're showing you here today is the way we have it configured, which is one of many different ways that you can do this. Okay, so step 1 is we're starting right at the computer.
Yeah, so everything and the same as your studio at home with your DAW and your computer, everything starts and ends at the computer. So for us, the computer of choice was a Mac Mini M1, and it is Thunderbolt connected to the X16s. The X16s are 2 X16s, but they're Thunderbolt connected together, making one big interface.
Right.
But essentially, the connection between the computer and the interface is exactly the same as yours at home. It's straight up audio in, audio out. Okay? So the audio coming out of the computer into the interface at the X16s are split out into four DB25 cables, each one carrying 8 channels of signal. So that's 32 channels out. Okay.
All right, so that's on the bottom. So on the bottom we have.
Yep. So there's these two are the outs, and then on the bottom one, these two are the outs.
Right down here.
Okay.
Yep.
Then they come over into the board.
So that's 4 D sub cables.
Yep.
Coming out.
Then the 4D sub cables come into the board in 4 what we're going to call buckets, what I think everybody calls buckets. Okay. So your first connection is here. This is the channel in audio. This is the audio from the interface into channels 1 through 8. And then here it's 9 through 16. And then on the other side,
it's right here,
is 17 through 25.
Channel in right here.
Yep. And then 26 through 28 all the way on the other end.
And right over here.
That's the audio into the board. Okay.
Yep.
Is we have the board set up where we have the 8 stereo groups come out of the board, go over into the patch bay for hardware patching, comes back out of the patch bay, back into the board. Okay? So those 8 stereo auxes, that's 2 D-sub cables from here over to the patch bay, back out of the patch bay, back over here, back in, so that the audio comes in to feed through the master output, and then the master output again comes out of the board here, back over to the patch bay again, and then there's an insert point for the hardware on the master bus, and then there's also the master send out to the X16 for the print track master output track. Okay. Also, we also have the monitor output. The output for the monitors, which is the master output. It's the master audio, comes out this one, and it gives you the option to hook up 4 sets of monitors.
Right, which
okay?
we're only using.
We're using 2. We have it set up.
So this comes out, and it's just a big XLR snake. It goes to our subwoofer, which is right down here, and then out to our focals, and then another set goes to our Avitone speakers.
Yep. Okay, so that's the main audio routing. Front of the rack.
Okay, front of the rack.
Front of the rack, we have 3 Furman power conditioners.
Yep.
To handle that, and these are step power conditioners, so
yep.
Things start up in specific order. Those are really nice. This is the Aphex 204 that is patched into the kick and snare on channel 1 on the first channel insert bucket. This is the distressor. This is patched into the lead Vox group.
Yep.
The fusion is hooked into the master insert, so that's on the master bus only.
Yep.
Those are your 2 Apollos. Apollo 1 handles the output for channels 1 through 16 and takes the input from the master on 3 and 4. The second Apollo handles the audio outputs to channels 17 through 32 and takes the 8 stereo stem outputs. So that's all 16 inputs are used on this one.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we get to the patch base, let's go over this rack.
So you got the empty space where the dead lexicon lived.
That's where we're going to replace that. Yep.
The ART Trans Y, this is actually mine. This is on loan until we decide what else we want to do. But this is at the present moment being used on the guitar buses. We can use it on either one.
Yep.
It's a stereo unit. The Bluey is patched into the vocal track inserts on channel 20.
Channel 20.
The NG bus is on the drum bus. The Dione at the present moment is being used for keyboards, but we have the option of patching that into something else if we want to. We can actually patch anything in anywhere we want, but this is how we have it set up right now. So the Dione is on keyboards. The X to C, we've tested and does work. You can use guitar effects as a channel insert on any of the channels that we have set up through the aux sends or through the aux sends. So that's a pretty cool thing to have. We've got plenty of room in the 500 rack for stuff down the road.
Yep.
And the audio-scape LA2A is on the bass bus.
Bass bus.
So that's everything that's in there. Now the patch bays are set up. The top patch bay is taking the master, this group here, this part of it here is the master inserts and the master send. This pair of wires is the most important one. This is the final master output into the X16 for the final print track. This is the big one. These two here, this is the effects insert for the Fusion. Okay, this one right now is empty. We've got some room to expand. Then these are the two. These are the 4D subs for the bus sends and returns. Okay, so these are the bus effects. So all of these are coming down to the bottom patch bay is where all the hardware is. This patch bay here, this is channel inserts 1 through 8. This is channel inserts 17 through 24. And then these are the aux sends and returns here, which we're not using right now, but they are hooked up. And then the bottom patch bay is all the hardware. Okay. So like I say, at this present moment, this pair here is the master send to the Fusion. These are all the bus compressors to all the different bus compressors. Okay, and then your channel inserts here. These are the kick and the snare to the effects, and this one is the vocal track to the Bluey. So that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing beginning to end.
Okay, that's great. So that's everything. So the only thing left to do is we'll get another reverb unit, and we already got the patch bay set up. We just have to replace the actual unit at one point. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, I just wanted to shoot this little outro here for the signal flow video. So I realized after doing some of this editing to this video that it could be a little bit confusing. There is a lot of cables, obviously, as you saw. Some of what we did there might be a little confusing to some of you that are not used to so many cables and such a complex audio signal flow. So I just want to let you know that if you have any questions below, leave them in the comments. I'd be glad to try to help. And also, I'm going to be creating kind of an Origin 101 beginner's guide coming up soon, where we're going to take you step by step for each different use case, meaning different scenarios on how you might use the console for both mixing and recording, and step by step what that signal flow would look like, exactly which connectors you use on the Origin and your interface for that specific use case. So that might make it a little bit more clear for you. So I do apologize if this video seemed a little bit disjointed and a little difficult to follow. It is difficult when you have so many wires, especially behind the racks. The other thing I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to start to clean up some of the wire management in the back of the racks, maybe route cables in a little bit of a different way to make things easier to see behind the rack in the gear, connected to the gear. And then I might be able to also improve on this video a little bit so you could see things a little bit more clearly. So those videos are going to come. Thank you so much for your patience. Hopefully this video at least helped you a little bit to know, kind of start to wrap your head around what the not only the signal flow, but really what's involved as far as how many cables you need and all the wiring that's involved. Because I'll tell you, the one thing that we really underestimated, at least I did, was the amount of D-sub cables that we were going to need for this project. I think we have 22 or 23 D-sub cables, D-sub to D-sub cables in this. And that doesn't include anything that's going from the patch base to the actual hardware, which is a lot of D-sub to TRS, D-sub to XLR. So there is a ton of cabling in this, but it all does work. It's all done. Signal is routed the way we want to route it, and everything seems to be working. The only problem that we had along the way, you might have heard in this video towards the end, this episode, or in last week's episode, where we had one defective unit. I bought one unit out of all the hardware that I own. I bought one unit used, and that was the Lexicon Reverb that we were testing on the auxes, and I bought it off of eBay. I only tested it knowing that it would light up, but after doing some troubleshooting, we realized that audio doesn't pass through it. We have a defective unit, and that's pretty unfortunate for me. Thankfully, it was only a couple of $100, and I'm going to replace it with something else, something better soon, but that was the only real big sticking point that we have. Everything else is working. So just a quick gear update here. I'm just going to do this quickly with the iPhone. So I got a couple of new pieces of gear here that's going to go into the rack sometime today. We got a second distressor here. Got a really good deal on this. It's actually upside down. And I picked up another IO, another Apollo 16 to add to our IO, and I bought both of these pieces. Actually, I bought the Apollo from a gentleman who was getting out of working on music and was getting into photography, and unloaded this thing to me at a wonderful, wonderful price. It's only a couple of years old. It looks brand new. Same gentleman had a distressor for sale that he sold to me for literally just about half price of what they cost new. Doesn't look like it's hardly ever been used. So I got really good deals on these. So the second distressor is going to be added to here. We're going to make that a stereo pair, and that's going to become our electric guitar bus compressor. Will be 2 distressors for now, and then the Apollo 16 is going to be added to these. Now these are the X16s, the ones that I currently have. These are the Thunderbolt 3s. This is a Thunderbolt 2 that I can still daisy chain together with the Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 3 adapter, which I have. I spoke to Universal Audio. They said you'll have no problems. This will give me another 16 in, 16 out. And the reason why I want to do that is because, what we've talked about in some of our early mixing videos, is currently I have all 32 channels, right? And on the last six channels, on these 6 faders, we were using parallel compression, and we were doing Effects 1 stereo and Effects 2 stereo for reverbs and delays plugins in the box. I wanted to free up these 6 faders so I can take advantage of all 32 preamps for just audio, and I want to put these 6 faders, and I'll actually have more, over on our short faders. I'm going to put them up here. So by using the new Apollo 16, that gives me 16 mono out, or 8 stereo pairs, right? All of these now become effects returns. So I can put, short reverb, mid reverb, long reverb, a delay, let's say, a couple of delays, a third delay, or parallel compression, whatever I want to do here. So I'm going to put the parallel compression and the effects returns for reverbs and delays in the box, and I'll show this all to you when we get to that point, how I'm going to route it, but they're all going to be here. So our effects blends will be here, and that will free up the last 6 channels here for the preamp section that I can use for audio channels, so I can do a little less comping in the box on sessions that need it. So today what I have to do, or this weekend, is I got to make some room, because now we're going to be dead out of space. So what I'm going to do here is we got some 2-space plate down here. I'm going to move all these patch bays down 2 spaces, because all this patching stays hard patch. We're not pulling things in and out as you saw in the setup videos, at least not for now. So I can drop these down 2 spaces. That will give me room to put the that other Apollo here, and still leave a space in between each one for cooling purposes, because these Apollos vent on the top. And although I've seen people stack them right on top of each other, I'm not a big fan of that if I cannot do that. So we're going to put the other Apollo down here, and then we're going to rearrange this rack a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, and actually I've added another rack up top here. So what I think I'm going to do, because one of the things I don't like is I don't like the gear that I have to put my hands on to adjust when I have to go from the sweet spot all the way over here and then get on the ground to adjust these components. I want to get these off the floor a little bit. And I knew that when I bought these racks, but I figured I would start with them like this. But anyhow, so I have this other spare rack, which is 8 spaces up top here, 4 and 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, on one side, I'm going to put the 2 distressors, the Aphex 204, that's 3. And then our other trans-Y FET style compressor for the second guitar bus, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will go in this rack. That gets these up at more eye level, if you will, where I don't have to crawl on the ground. The computer will be moved. And then in the other 4 space, I think I'm going to put the LA2A, which is a 3 space. And I'd love to put the Bluey, but I don't think it's not going to fit. So for now, I'm probably just going to put the LA2A up in this rack, and then I'll leave up in there, and I'll leave a space open at the top for future use. The NG bus compressor can actually be pushed down, and also the 500 rack. I think I'm just going to swap these two around because the NG bus compressor and the Dione, plus another little magic compressor by West Audio that's coming soon, little teaser there, we'll talk about that shortly, all can be controlled, digitally controlled with the plugin, which you've seen in one of the videos, I think in the bass video that I did recently. So I don't need to physically touch these two pieces because they're all digitally controlled from the plugin. I can sit right in the sweet spot, adjust them at the computer, and it digitally controls them. That's what's great about them. So this can be moved down. I'll probably put the NG bus compressor down in the bottom slot. I'll put the 500 rack, well, actually it'll probably stay right where it is. And then what I can do is I can move the Bluey up a little bit because the trans Y is going to be moved over. I'm going to try to move this up a little bit as well so it's not so low in the rack, and try to, where I have to put my hands on things, get them a little bit higher. So I'm going to utilize this other rack that I've had in the back. It's actually made by the same guy that made these two racks. It's I can't remember this name here. You could search him on Reverb. Santica Sound. And recording. He made this rack here for another project I had that I haven't been using. It's an 8 space, and then he also made these two, so they match pretty nicely. So if you look at it there. So I'm going to do some rearrangement this weekend, get all the gear in there, and then we're good for now. Hey guys, so I finished putting all the new gear in. Let me just kind of show you what we did here. So as we talked about, we moved down all the patch bays to the bottom of the rack because that stuff doesn't really get touched. I put the new Apollo 16 here. So it's the third unit, so it goes this one, daisy chains into this one, daisy chains into this one, goes into the computer. The computer I put back on the shelf, back in the rack, because I had some open space to get it off of the top of the rack. So I really don't need to get to the computer. I have this new OWC Thunderbolt 4 expansion dock for the Mac Mini M1, which is really great. There's a USB-A and a couple of Thunderbolt 4s on the back. Then the Fusion got moved up one spot. And then down here we have some open space where the LA2A was. The Titan, the NG bus compressor hasn't moved because, as I said, both of these can be controlled with the digital plug-in inside of the DAW, so I don't need to come down here and touch them. I was able to move the LA2A up, which is great. Took it from down here, put it up here, which is great. Empty space for now. And then in this top rack that I added, let's see, on the right side, we just moved up the Bluey. We have 2 more spaces for future expansion. I would have loved to got the LA2A in there, but that's a 3 space and I'd run out of space. And then over here, I've consolidated the 2 distressors, the Apex 204 and the Trans Y for the guitar bus. So this will be for one of the guitar groups. We're going to link these together to put this on electric guitars. This will be on acoustic guitars for now. This is on kick and snare. And that's the rack. So we got some expansion room. We got kind of that is now the official end of phase 1 with all the equipment. And then we still have to do some wire management in the back, but that's for a whole nother video. The wire management is going to be an entire new video. So that's the way the racks look, and we will have some room for expansion in the future, but that's it for now. So okay, gang, so I'm just doing this video as kind of an update to a live stream that we did last week. We did a marathon live stream, a 6-hour live stream, Dave and I, doing the rebuild and reorganization of this rack here with some of the gear. And so for folks who don't want to sit through a 6-hour live stream and see the entire detail, if you want to see it all step by step, how we ripped the whole rack down, took it all apart, rewired it, did a whole bunch of cable management stuff, which I want to show you in this video. I'll link that in the description box below. But for you that just want to see kind of a shorter video, I want to take you through. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around the back of the rack and show you all of the wire management that we did, and then I'll take you back here around the front and show you how we kind of reorganized things, and we added a new rack, as you can see, on top with a couple of new pieces of gear. And so let's do that. So we're just going to take the iPhone, we're going to come back here, and I'm going to show you. So if you have not seen the first video that I did called Cable Management, My Rat's Nest of Wires or something like that, you can go watch that and see what what we did there. This was kind of phase 2. So what we were able to achieve here, as you can see, that there's really almost no wiring, no cabling at all on the floor anymore. So let me show you what we did here briefly. So hopefully the lighting is going to be okay. I'm sorry the shaky camera work here. So the first thing we did is we added rack rails to the back of the rack. So these racks did not come with rails. So we added 12 space worth of rack rails, okay, on both racks. So you see the rack rail here, here, and then on the second rack here, and then the other side. And what we did is we add these wire management, these rack mountable wire management, wire cabling system here. So it's just a piece of aluminum with these openings here that you can open up and you can route cables through them. Okay, and we have several of these on both racks. So we have one up here for all the power wires. So all of our power wires to all our gear is coming down, going through this rack and going over to our power strips, which I'll show you in a second. And then we have another one here that's being used just a little bit here. We have another one down here on this rack, and all the D-subs are being routed and comes up and goes into the different pieces of equipment. And what this really allowed us to do is not only keep all the cabling off the floor, or most of it, as I said, but really what it's achieved that all of these connections now to all the gear, there is no more strain on any of the cables. All the strain relief that this provides is really great. So it makes it a neat way to get your cabling off the floor, and it also then provides so you're not tugging on the cables because everything is kind of up in the air, relieving the strain, which is important when you have this many connections. Here's all the connections to the 500 series rack in the back, the West Audio rack. Okay, so that's the first thing we did. And as we come over to the second rack here, you'll see if I can get back here. There's a lot more cables here. I know it looks like a big rat's nest, but it is kind of organized. So on the bottom here is all of our audio interfaces, the Apollos. And again, you can see all of the D subs. Everything is labeled. Get that out of the way. I'll try to get that one out of the way. Everything is labeled here, so you can see everything. So all the D subs come from behind the board, kind of in this big. Pull back a little bit, this big bundle. This is actually going to be eliminated this week. We're not using that anymore. But just comes down here, goes along the ground, and then just comes up into the Apollo. So there's no real strain relief on any of these D subs. The rest of them are going into, again, these wire management system here, this cabling channel. And these are all going to the patch bays, which I know will be difficult to see because there's so many D subs here. But here's all the patch bays in blue, the switchcrafts. So everything is going into the patch bays here. You can see them all in there. So you'll see there's 3 patch bays stacked on top of each other. And again, no strain relief on any of these cables now because of the way we routed them through this cable management. Okay, so all the power cables again run across the top. We have a cable management bracket here on this rack, and then on this rack, and everything just runs straight across. Now again, if you go watch the live stream, you'll see this done. We filmed this in stages so you can see it as it kind of came together. This is just kind of the after, and I just wanted to kind of show you. So the lesson here is, or the information I'm trying to pass along to you if you care, is that having rack rails mounted with these cable, this is probably the one you can see the best because we don't have it completely full yet, and getting these cable management racks really is a great thing. And these cable management racks are all made out of aluminum. They're about $15, $12-15 each. The rack rails were probably $20 for each rack. So I spent about $100 between the rack rails and the cable management. And so that works pretty well. So again, if I stand up here, and then I just added these little clip-on lights. So when you want to see stuff, you can just 2 clip-on lights, you can see everything. But so again, we went from cabling all over the floor to all up in the racks now, and again, most importantly, no strain relief, or there's no strain on any of these connectors. Everything is very, very little strain. Nothing's pulling on anything. It really worked out quite well. So that's the back of the rack. And we'll just show you one more time here. Again, I apologize for the And again, there, yeah, obviously it looks like, wow, that's a whole rack, whole mess of cables. Well, it is. There's no way to have this much equipment and not have all these cables, but it's not all over the floor. It's organized and everything is labeled, so that's great. So now if I come around the front, here is the new rack setup. So let me start on the left and I'll go from the bottom up. So what we did is we moved all the audio interfaces, the 3 Apollos, to the bottom. And the reason why we did that is because you don't really put your hands on them. You don't ever really have to touch them. They're just there. So we have the 3 here, okay? Above that on a shelf is the computer that runs the whole setup, the Mac Mini M1, a couple of SSD drives, a main drive and a backup, and then there's a Thunderbolt extension port in the back. Then above that we have our 3 power conditioners. Okay, and I've talked about these before. These are great, the M8Ss. These are by Furman. These are delayed, so they're in 3 banks. So when you turn them on, they come on in stages. Not all the equipment comes on at once. So we have 3 of those. And then the real main reason for doing this whole project, aside from the cable management in the back, was we wanted to get our patch bays, which used to be down here, up in the air where we can use them more easily. So we can patch pieces of gear in and out. So we're able to do that. So we have 3 Switchcraft patch bays, a 96 point and 2 48 point. A 9625, and then we have 2 6425s. And the reason why they're not labeled is because I have I have a labeling program, and we're going to label all of these so it'll be nice and easily labeled. So now you can, sitting in the chair, you can just wheel over here and easily see and patch things in and out. So that was the main reason for doing this whole project. So now the patch bays are here. Okay, so that's that one rack. If we go up, or we'll go to the other side. So we have our other rack now here. And on the bottom, we have some open spaces here for future expansion. I just got some blank plates. We have the West Audio NG bus compressor. And again, that's kind of down low to the ground because that is all digitally controlled with a plug-in in the DAW. So you don't need to get down here and turn the knobs by hand, although you can. Then we have the West Audio 500 series rack with the Dione compressor, the RIA compressor. And then we have the Radial Ecstasy, which allows us to kind of insert guitar pedals and stuff. We haven't really used that much yet, but that's a really cool piece we're going to play with. And then we have some empty spaces here in the 500 series for future expansion. Right here we have a blank space here. There's going to be a reverb unit, a hardware reverb unit coming from audio-scape very soon, which are going to go right there, and we'll do some videos on that. Then we have the SSL Fusion, which is on the master bus. Okay. And then we have these 2 top racks. Okay. The first one here, we have the ART Trans Y. Right now that's being patched into our background vocal bus. We have the Bluey by Black Lion Audio, which again right now it's not patched into anything. We can patch it wherever we want now that we moved the patch bays where they're actually usable. So we'll be able to use the Bluey, put that wherever you want. And then above that we have our latest piece here, AudioScape, the V-Comp Plus, which is their version of the stay level. There's a video on that on the channel, you can search that out. Again, that can be patched anywhere we want. If we go over to the other side, we have the Opto Compressor by AudioScape, their LA2A version. Again, could be patched wherever we want. Then we have the Aphex 204s. We have 2 of them, one for kick snare, the other one's for toms. Those are being inserted on the tom and kick channels, kick, snare, and tom channels. And then we have our 2 distressors that are stereo linked together, and those are going right now to one of our guitar buses. But again, you can patch any of this stuff anywhere, really, any way that you really want to do it. So that is the racks. So that is kind of the finished product, if you will, for now. We have no other gear except for the reverb unit coming in, and now we have everything really that we really need to just continue to keep mixing. And now with the patch bays being, you know, more flexible, we can patch any of these compressors into any of the inserts. The way we have this set up, and once I get all these things labeled, I'll shoot another video, but this second patch bay here, the second one, this one is going to be all of 32 inserts, sends and returns on the console, right? Channels 1 through 32, and that's going to allow us to patch any of the gear into any one of those channels. So you could put these compressors in anywhere you want, which is great. So that is our wire management and our rack rebuild. Hope you guys found this helpful and useful. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if there's other types of videos that you want to see, let me know. And I will link all the wire cable management stuff that I bought on Amazon in the description box below as well. So until next time, I've been Dave with Mixing Music Analog and mixingmusicanalog.com. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you soon.